so proud to be Haitian because just everything about being Haitian is just awesome.
You know, everyone know about the history of Haiti, first Black independent country in 1804.
Understanding the history of Haiti or Haitian people, you can't help but be proud of the accomplishments that have happened.
Haitian Americans have done really well in the past few years. There's still a lot more work to be done. Only about 20% of us actually have a bachelor's degree.
I understand firsthand some of the challenges that Haitian American students, graduates, and professionals have faced.
Some of them have overcome incredible adversity.
Who've immigrated, who are asylum seekers or refugees.
There are not that many Haitian-focused scholarships, but like any other award, the NAAHP Leadership Award is providing recognition for one's hard work.
As we know, college is expensive, so this scholarship fund provides the chance for a brighter future.
It felt like the universe was speaking, like I needed the money, I was intrigued, people were telling me to apply.
Going to college or graduate school can be very, very expensive. So donating to a scholarship like this would help that expense be more manageable.
Future generation of leaders, scholars, entrepreneurs,
young adults that are trying to make something of their lives.
They are rock stars. They just need the help, and they need us to help them accomplish it.
There's like this Haitian proverb that says, "Meilleur pied palu," many hands make a load lighter.
Log in and you can donate $10, $25, $50.
It makes me think of the Malcolm X quote that education is our passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. It makes me happy to know that our organization is contributing to that goal, preparing others for the future.
Hello, and welcome to College Planning with the NAAHP, the National Alliance for the Advancement of Haitian Professionals. So good to see you all. And today, our topic, we are talking about the college tour and all about college applications. I'm very excited and thankful to the NAAHP for this opportunity. We want to first thank them and also our other partners, Chocarella and Book It Right Accountancy, in addition to College Cafe. My name is Dr. Ketsia Alert Sadler, and I'm the founder of College Cafe, where our mission is helping families and their children learn all they need to know about paying for college or paying as least for it as possible. I'm excited to have as my guest this evening, Mr. Calvin Conyers, who is the Chief Enrollment Officer at Benjamin Franklin Institute of Technology in Massachusetts. And prior to joining BFIT, he was a Director of Admissions. Prior to joining BFIT as their Director of Admission in 2016, he served as the Senior Associate Director of Admissions at Wheelock College and also worked in the admissions office at Mount Ida College. That's his alma mater. And Calvin was also honored with the People Making a Difference in Our Community Award by the National Urban League Incentives to Excel and Succeed. His Bachelor's of Science was in Business Administration, and he has a certificate in Leadership Studies from Mount Ida College and his MA in Communications with a focus on education from Grand Canyon University. He was born and raised in Englewood, New Jersey, and is a graduate of Dwight Morrow High School. Thank you, Calvin. It's so good to have you, and thank you for the invitation to talk to our crowd out there today.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. So let's get started. So tell us about your college process when you were applying to college. What did you learn, and what would you tell your 16 or 17-year-old self now?
I had, just like a lot of students and a lot of juniors and seniors in high school, I wanted to go far away from home when I was looking at colleges. And I think it was just more so the thought of just being away from your parents and having that type of adult life or college lifestyle. But as I started to look at some of the programs that I wanted to really focus in on, and just looking at just having accessibility to my family at home, just in case things happen and I needed to go home for any type of reason, I started to narrow my choices down to colleges within the Northeast and so forth. So I was looking at a couple of HBCUs, and then randomly I received a couple of offers of football and basketball offers where the schools were looking to have me join their teams, and Mount Ida was one of the schools that I didn't really want to go to, but the fact that it was in Boston and was going to provide me with a diverse atmosphere, which I really wasn't accustomed to growing up in Inglewood. It was a choice that I went and I visited the college, and I just fell in love with the campus. And next thing I knew, I just started blooming and opportunities started coming. And 20 years later, I'm still up here in Boston. I thought that I would leave after I graduated, but like I said, opportunities came about, and I don't think that I would change the choice that I made. I think that the fact that I was open to look outside the box is something that I would tell my 16, 17-year-old self. Just don't get so focused into what the hype or what everyone is telling you to, look and strive for. But, think outside the box, like try something different, or just have one or two schools that may be, what most may consider out of the ordinary, just to have that diversity and that change up in your college process. I cannot hear you.
Sorry, that sounds like some good advice. I turned off mute so you wouldn't hear me breathing through the microphone. So that's definitely some good advice for our students out there. So let me ask you. So we're talking about the college tour. Did you what would you say to students now as far as visiting colleges? How important is that in this whole process?
Visiting colleges is very important. When you look at the brochures and everything that you may receive in the mail, it's going to show all of the positives and all the glamorous things that, are supposed to get you interested in the school. The next step is for you to actually go to the college and walk around and get a sense of the community and the vibe. There are some colleges that I've visited, and I knew right then and there, as soon as I was driving up to the college, and I didn't even have to step out of the car, and I knew that college was not for me. Then there were a few that attracted me. I felt comfortable, but you have to know yourself and the environment, whether or not this would be something that would be too tempting, wherein there's a lot of hype about college and the party life and things of that nature. Or whether or not it's just something that's going to be, you'll be able to get your focus on and still enjoy college life, because that's what, when people talk about the college experience, that's what they're really talking about, that life that you live outside of the academics. But just finding that balance and knowing yourself, and what you want. So when you're on these college tours, you're asking these people, some of the questions that you want to know the outcomes of their students. You want to go and speak to students outside of the admissions tour that they're giving you. So the admissions people, they'll give you a tour and they'll walk you around campus and they'll show you everything that's beautiful. That's great. After that tour, you do your own personal tour and you walk around and you ask a random student, hey, do you like the school? They will not filter it. They will tell you exactly how they feel. And you do that with a few students. Find some students that look like you. Ask them, how do you feel? Do you feel comfortable on campus? That's how you get a better sense of the community and whether or not that institution is really for you. These are things that I've learned over the years that I always try to help students just understand. You have to ask these questions. If you just go with the motion and don't ask any questions, you're going to be sold all the positives. There's no college in the world that is just perfect. So you want to know the bad, so you can see whether or not the bad is enough, whether or not you can handle what everyone is talking about.
Yeah. And another thing I always tell families when they visit is also have a meal at the cafeteria.
Crucial.
You
That's
definitely
very
you
important.
want to know what the food is like, and you're right. Those unofficial tours, talking to a student on campus will definitely tell you if they like it, if they don't like it, and that's vital information. So let's pivot in this world of COVID now. Some schools may not be offering tours like they used to before. So in these virtual ones, how do you navigate that to get important information?
You ask the admissions department whether or not they can connect you with the current student. And you want to just have a genuine conversation with that current student. Then you want to see whether or not they can connect you with the faculty member that within your program or the department chair. These little asks aren't, it's not much, but that right there will show you, just how willing they are to work with you. And it will also give you the opportunity to dig a little bit deeper into the culture of the college.
Okay. You have any other nuggets of information regarding the college tour, whether in person, virtual?
Virtual, I mean, the virtual ones are the toughest ones because you're getting a drone shot of the campus. Excuse me. The biggest thing is really just with the virtual tours, you really have to ask the questions. What type of support do you have on campus? Do you have free tutoring? Is it by the professors? Is it by peer, students, peers? I think taking a step back, when you're exploring colleges and you're trying to figure out which college is best for you, you have to do self-evaluation, right? And that self-evaluation is going to consist of you figuring out what type of person are you? What do you need in order to be successful? What's your learning style? Do you want a small classroom setting? Do you want a large classroom setting? If you're at a big university where you can go under the radar, is that better for you because you're quiet and you don't want anyone to know who you are? Or do you need the more supportive system where it's a smaller school and there's a little bit more hand holding and nurturing? The more you know about yourself, the easier it will be for you to figure out which school will be, the best success story for you. So those are some questions that you want to ask about yourself, because then that can narrow your college choices down. Do you want to be far away from home? Do you want to be in a city, where there's no parking? Do you want to be in a rural, area or a suburban area where there is parking, but there's access to the city? The more you know about yourself, what works for you and, what type of study environment you need in order to be successful. I'm quite sure you should know what type of environment that would not be successful for you. So it's really just trying to find that even balance.
Mm-hmm. Right, and I think parents too have a key role in that, knowing their children, helping guide the children to, a school that may be a better fit for the child. And then, like I always tell families also, is that college tours can be something you can incorporate into the family vacation as you're traveling. Instead of going to the rest stop along the highway, if there's a school maybe a couple miles off from that exit or on the way, then go there and incorporate your tours into your life so that it becomes part of the whole process to apply to colleges.
And you're never too young to go on a college visit. Even if you you just go and you stop in the admissions office and you gather information to learn more about some of the programs. There are a lot of upcoming programs, majors that are in high demand that we don't even know about because it's not our area of expertise. When you think about the clean, renewable energy technology, there's like a 105% job increase over the next 10 to 15 years in that industry. I want to say there was an article that came out where there's about $125 million that's being spent just to advance the study and research in that area. So it's like, we don't know. These aren't topics that are really talked about in our community, but it's us that are in the industry or that are being the educators, doing that research to figure out what's up and coming. Everybody can't be a lawyer. Everybody can't be a doctor. Everyone can't be a nurse, so it's how can I make myself marketable to a point where I'm in a market where there's no competition. There are programs where they're under enrolled, but the success rate and the salary ranges are out of the ballpark, but these aren't programs that are being talked about. Prime example, Benjamin Franklin Institute of Technology, Boston, Mass. We have a program, opticiry. Most people don't even know what that is. That's a 2-year associate. That's a 2-year associate degree that pretty much you're the technician that make contact lenses and eyeglasses. We have a 99% job placement rate with that program. We're the only program in the state that offers that. The only way you can get into that field is if you do a 4-year apprenticeship. You would think that program is, there's a waiting list. Most people never even heard of it. But when you think about LensCraft, Vision Works, like all of these little optical shops that you see in the mall and places of that nature, these are the people that are working there. The 2-year associate degrees, these students are coming out making $60K.
That's not bad.
And we've been taught that you have to go and get your bachelor's degree to eventually get that $40K job and then work your way up and so forth. There's an ever-changing landscape in education that's continuously changing, and we have to stay above that so we can educate our young students and mentees that these are other options. When you think about the trades and technical programs, that's a field industry that you don't see a lot of people of color going into. Lucrative, and a lot of these people can be their own bosses. All the young folks, they want to be there. They don't want to work for anyone. Everyone wants to be a boss. They want to own their own businesses and be a boss, So it's like, if you learn a trade, these trades are recession proof. We're looks like we're about to go back into the pandemic, but for the past 18 months, we've seen 30+ million Americans lose their jobs. We've seen just the job, we've seen everything just change. People still need to get their cars fixed. People still need their electricity. So you think about electricians, you think about computer information technology. Everyone is using Zoom and other platforms, StreamYard, to utilize technology. So there was a lot of talk about STEM 10 years ago, and people started to talk about it more. Prime example, the pandemic put it right in front of all of us. That's exactly where the money is. Everything now is technical, and it's not new. It's just that no one jumped on it because it was new at that point. Mm-hmm. So everyone's reactive. Now everyone's, oh, you need to learn that now, where we could have been ahead of the game, but scared to take that risk because be a doctor, be a nurse, be a lawyer, so it's changing that mindset.
No, I definitely agree, because not all of our children, some of our students are more hands-on, so they need that type of environment for them. And I won't say that they're not college material, because I don't like saying that. I say some people just need a different learning environment that is better for them. And you're right. This pandemic shows us that you can be your own boss if you have a trade, whether you're a plumber, people need to get their plumbing done in their homes. So that's definitely important. So let's shift a little. So now we're it's about to be September, and we're talking about the whole college application process. Um, so one thing, can you talk about the different types of applications that are out there? I know we've got early decision, early action, rolling admission, regular admission. So can you talk a little bit about that with our students and
Yes.
families?
Yes. So there's early decision, and early decision is when you apply to a college and once pretty much I'll give you an example. You know the college that you want to go to. If you get accepted to that college, you know no matter what, you're definitely going to go to that college. That's the college you want to do the early decision on. Your early decision is not a decision that you're making based upon your financial aid packet or award letter. You're saying no matter what, if you get accepted into that college, you're definitely going into that college. That's early decision. That's one that me personally, I would tell students to stay away from, because you don't want to commit to a college not knowing what your financial aid will look like. Some students are in financial situations where it doesn't matter. If that's the case, you can definitely, you can definitely lock into the early decision. The other option is early action. So early action is definitely something that I suggest a lot of students take advantage of, because early action is when you can receive in your decision on whether or not you've been accepted into the college early. So some colleges may have an early deadline of October or November, and you'll have your decision by Thanksgiving or Christmas. That'll be early action. So with that, only thing you're just being on the you're just being informed that you've been accepted to that college. So that's giving you the opportunity early on to either visit the school because you know that you've been accepted, and it's just you just figuring out, the financial part. But that's the early action. So you'll know whether or not you've been accepted into the college early on. Then you have regular decision where, you get accepted to the college, and then you typically will make that decision in May, May 1st, June 1st, depending upon what the college deadline is. Every college has different deadlines. You have rolling admissions. When a college that's rolling admission means that you can pretty much apply up to the start of classes, and if you have a financial plan, they will, you'll be all set. But I like early action because you get to know that you've been accepted into the school, but then it's really just figuring out the finances afterwards. And the good thing about financial aid now compared to the way it was 4 years ago, you can now apply for financial aid October 1st. Years ago, I want to say 5 years ago, it was January 1st. So students could get accepted in November, and then they apply for financial aid, and they wouldn't get their financial aid award letter until February, March. Then they're trying to rush and make a decision on which college they're going to by May. So higher ed acknowledged that, that's been pretty stressful for students. So they moved it up to October. This way students can start receiving their award letters as early as Thanksgiving. Excuse me. But those are the typical decisions that you will have when you're applying to college. You have the early decision where you're pretty much locked into that college once you get accepted and you commit. You have early action where you're pretty much just being informed whether or not you're accepted or not to the college. Then you have the regular decision where there's a deadline that you will have to submit your application to know whether or not you've been accepted. And then you have rolling admission where they will accept you throughout the year through the start of classes.
Okay. So there's another question I've heard students asking a lot. What is the recommended number of schools that students should submit their application? Is there a number? Is there a number that's too much?
You don't want to get too you don't want to get too out of hand. And this is what I wouldn't necessarily put a number. If I had to put a number, I would say 9. And I would say you have your top 3 schools, 3 of your safe schools, and then 3 of your fallback schools. This way it gives you levels. There is no number, but if I had to pick a number, I would say 9. It goes back to you knowing yourself and what type of student you are and what type of learning environment you want. You may want to apply to a college that's in Hawaii just because Hawaii is hot and you have this image of what it looks like there. But if they don't have your program of study and they don't have it's not the size of the classroom size isn't what you're looking for. There's so many things that could deter you actually going there. You have to really figure out what the colleges you're applying for should really be the ones that have exactly what you're looking for. This way you're not just wasting your time and money on applications that, once you actually get accepted, you're not going to do pretty much with. So it's really trying to do that back research prior to applying to a lot of these colleges, because a lot of these schools, you have to pay $40, $50 for application. So it's really just trying to figure out, which ones, is this really a school that you would really consider? And then when you answer that question, why? And if you can answer that, then apply.
Now, another question. Is it good to call the school? I know, in addition to visiting, do some of the schools keep track of whether a student calls, visits, how many times they do? Does that have impact on your admission decision?
Most schools should be tracking that, and not necessarily to have a major impact, but when you see students that are active in the enrollment process, that typically it puts the student in a good light, especially if it's a smaller school, because smaller schools, you'll know your admissions counselor once you're on campus. Not so much, not necessarily at the larger institutions where they're dealing with, an incoming class of 5,000 students. You may not get the same type of individualized attention, but definitely visiting. You should definitely visit your top schools. That's like an automatic. Plan it. It doesn't always have to be during the school year, although I do suggest going while there are students there. A lot of students do take advantage of the summertime. That's another option. But when you go and there's no students there, it's hard to get a real feel for the campus. You're looking at buildings, you have to use your imagination too much. The only thing you should be imagining is, all right, you see the people there, you should just be imagining yourself in that classroom, in that seat. You can also shadow students. I think that's something that is very popular. Obviously with COVID, that changes, but being able to sit in on a class, that'll give you a good sense of the culture of the college, and that culture goes a long way. You can go somewhere and be and completely feel out of place, and that could be the culture of the college. That's not what you want, so you want to be able to go somewhere where you're valued, people look at you and respect who you are, where you come from, and everything that comes along with that.
Okay. All right. Definitely cool. So I see one question. Well, I see a couple questions in the chat. Anything else that we missed regarding the applications and the whole process?
I think with the application process, you definitely want to apply early, and following up. Give the admissions office a call, check in on your application, make sure they have all their documents. We're not really talking much about financial aid, but I'm just gonna drop this dime in there. When you go through the financial aid process and you receive your first financial aid award letter, you don't have to automatically accept and say, this is what I'm taking, or this is what I'm accepting too. It doesn't hurt to appeal and to see whether or not there's more institutional aid that's available for the student. Even if it's, $2,000 more, that could be something that could definitely help lower the end cost of your attendance. So, that can be as simple as, some schools have formal appeal processes where you have to go through and fill the form out and so forth. Other schools, it could be something as simple as the parent or the student writing an email to the director of financial aid stating that, this is their number one school. They really want to come. Is there any way that, the college can find an additional, and you have to say a number. I always tell families to say a number. Usually if you say 10,000 or something of that nature, that's probably not going to happen. So just keep the things in perspective. But if you ask for a specific number, I think that shows that you have a financial plan and you're not just asking for, a give me or hand me out.
The first workshop I did with NAAHP was actually on the appeal letter process, because some families really had no idea that they can actually do that. I had a young lady I met who's going into her first year in next month, and she said, "Oh, I'll wait until next year because with COVID or mom's finances that changed." She's like, "Well, I'll wait till next year when I do FAFSA to change." I said, "No, you send that letter now to the school." And sure enough, that school had a formal process. There was a form and etc. But I believe she got an additional $3,000 or $4,000, which that makes a big difference.
And that's the thing. Like, I wish that I would have asked for money and I was going through the process. It's almost like we get so prideful, and it's like, oh, well, I don't want to ask. But worst thing they can say is no, and you still have your package, so you might as well ask. And I think that is something that we just have to get comfortable, comfortable doing, because there are other groups of people that are definitely doing and utilizing that process. So we have to make sure that we're leveling the playing grounds.
And another piece of the process, what about the interview? Some schools require them. Some schools say they're optional. Sometimes you may not even see it. So how do you handle the interview with the application?
If it's required, obviously you would do it. A lot of schools, it depends on the program. It also depends on on the college. If you go to the college and you do a regular visit, that will more than likely be something similar to an interview, depending upon the level of, depending upon the college that it is. A lot of these interviews, if it's not a part of the admission process, the interview isn't really, it's just really just for the admissions people just to really, so like I said, if it's a part of the application process where it says on the application the interview is required with the application, that's one thing, or a presentation. But if it's something where it's like not required, I wouldn't feel obligated, or it's not something where I would push a student to do it. Now, interviews are important for students who have something that they need to express to the admissions department. So let's say you're a 3.0 student and you lost your parent your sophomore year, so you flunked, but you jump back. You may want to come into an interview just to talk about your transcript. So, or if there's something in your application or there's some type of life experience that may may have impacted your performance in high school or whatever the case may be, or a grade in the class, you may want to set up an interview just to talk about that. And that'll be prior to you submitting that. This way it's something that's added in. You can bring your transcript in with the interview and, present it that way. Outside of that, I wouldn't, force the interview unless, like I said, it's required.
Okay, that's a good point, because when I do my workshops, I usually say, obviously required, do it, but if not, if it's optional, do it anyway. At least that gives them another visual on you. They see you as opposed to you just being paper. And like you said, there are extenuating circumstances that may not be explained in a letter by your guidance counselor or whomever. So that's really important. Okay, so let's pivot into some of the questions that our audience has asked. So the first one is, can you give us a rundown on some of the majors that are offered at BFIT?
Sure. Well, we're a trade and technical college. So we have a very interesting way of stacking our programs. So we really cater to the urban city. When you think about Mattapan, Dorchester, Roxbury, that's where you see a lot of people of color. 70% of our college is students of color. So we have a model where we offer certificate programs between 8 to 12 months. And then we have associate degree programs. And then we have a few bachelor degree programs. Some of our programs consist of automotive technology, so students that are interested in cars, fixing cars. We have a certificate program, an associate degree program, as well as a bachelor degree program. We offer computer information technology, and we have 3 concentrations underneath that: network and system support, software development, and web design. We have health information technology, which is an associate degree program as well as a bachelor degree program. There's a data analytics track as well as a public health track with that. We offer construction management, practical electricity, which is a pathway for students that are interested in becoming an electrician. We have HVAC technology, people that are looking to become technicians and fixing heating, ventilation, air conditionings, and refrigerators. CAD and SolidWorks, CNC machining, electronics technology, electrical engineering, megatronics, which is a new up-and-coming major that we should be in the forefront of, talking to students in our community about, which is, we think about the turbine, winds, and solar panels. We have renewable energy and technology, and we also have opticiry, which is the people who fix contact lenses and glasses. The good thing about some of our programs is you're able to go in and get a certificate within 8 to 12 months, see what's available, but then also stack that certificate into one of our associate degree programs, and then potentially use that associate degree to stack it into one of our bachelor degree programs. This way, in a time frame that most students would just get a bachelor, you would have a certificate, an associate, and a bachelor within that same time frame.
That's good, especially for the students who think 4 years, oh my gosh, that's too long. You do something in a year, start working, then you can go back and get the 2-year degree. So that definitely, should help some of the students who are maybe thinking short able to get out and making it be financially stable.
Right.
Okay, so let's say question number 2 is what advice you would give to someone debating living on or near campus?
To be honest with you, I would always encourage someone to live on campus, because I think that gives you when you think about the college life, and when people say, "Oh, college life is this and college life is that," they're not really talking about the academics in the classroom. They're talking about everything that happens outside of that, for the most part, between intramurals, sports, the interactions and the relationships that you gain in the dorm rooms and extracurricular activities, that's where you really find these lifelong friends and so forth. When you're at a commuter school, unless you're working in like cohorts, when you're with the same group of people through certain cohorts, it's kind of harder to build those relationships because people are pretty much in and out. They come, they go to their class, they do their work. If they have a group project, they may interact or whatever the case may be, or in between classes, but it's more of a, revolving door where they're in and out, in and out. So I would definitely suggest someone, if you can live on campus, live on campus. Now, living on campus is definitely more expensive. So when you're thinking long term and, financially, if it comes down to finances, I would say stay home because you will wind up saving, $15,000 a year, just paying room and board, where you can use that money and stay at home. That's the difference, really. It's just really the experience, the extracurriculars that happen outside of the academic classes.
And even some of the positive things too. I was a commuter student, living in Jersey City, going to school in Manhattan, and just those after hours, those study groups, just being able to, if you're a science major and there's a biology group that's meeting at 9 o'clock, you probably can't stay on campus at 9. You have to get home, so you're missing out on that. My older son said that there's a lot of positive things on campus too. There's different speakers that come, and if you're rushing to get home, you're missing out on a whole lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other part for me also was when I went back to my college reunions, I didn't have those stories about, remember what happened on our dorm floor that night? You don't have those things. I kind of felt like a fish out of water because I didn't have some of those stories and some of those connections with your freshman year roommate or your suite mates. There's just a
Right.
part of it that you're missing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, definitely college. And like you said, financially, especially now with COVID, a lot of students, the option to stay home was better this year, because the school was remote, so you might as well stay,
Right.
stay home anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't even an option for some of us. But then once you move on campus, you do have the option to become an RA, a resident assistant, where that will help with the room and board fee. So
Right.
that's something students can look into once they get on campus.
Definitely.
Yeah. So our third question is asking if there's a list of schools that do not require the SAT.
I am with you on that, to be honest with you. It's funny because when I was looking at colleges, I Googled colleges without SATs because I just wasn't a test taker. That wasn't my specialty. So long story short, there are a great number of colleges that are not looking for SATs. But the thing about that is you higher your chances by making sure that you're taking honors and, AP courses if you're not going to submit your SATs. I'm not saying if you haven't taken those classes, you won't get accepted, but when admissions officers are looking and reviewing their transcripts, they're recalculating GPAs, and you get higher points when you're taking an honors class or an AP course. So there are a number of colleges that I want to say there are actually more colleges now that are making SAT and ACTs optional than there were in the past. A lot of the big name colleges are looking at making tests optional, but they're also saying that they may not say it publicly, but they're making sure that these students are taking the AP courses and that, the student that has more AP and honor courses will have a better chance of getting in over someone who has all college prep courses.
Yes, that's what I've told students as well, that your application has to be solid. Your essay as well needs to be strong.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely want to do the interview if it's acquired, and even if it's optional, because you need to stand out, because you have one
That
less piece of the puzzle.
right. That's major. You definitely, that's the one you really want to make sure you're ahead of the deadlines, and that you're doing things to separate yourself from all other applicants. You're following up, you're asking questions, you're definitely visiting the college. Schools that are optional, you want to make sure they know you, because they're probably a little bit smaller. So make sure they know your name in a good way.
Mhm. Absolutely. So in terms of the application, also, we talked about the deadlines prior. One thing I always say as well is I feel like my younger son who got into Cornell, I think it's because we got his application in early. We didn't do early decision, but all his applications were submitted by middle or end of, definitely by Thanksgiving of his
Hmm.
senior year. So I totally feel like that was a major advantage to him being accepted, because when we ended up going to the admitted students dinner or whatever, they said they had gotten like 40,000 applicants that year and they only accepted 6,000 of the students.
Hmm.
So I definitely feel that getting the application in way earlier than the January 1st deadline was definitely an advantage.
Definitely. I encourage all students to apply before Thanksgiving. Um, there's the thing is, going into your senior year, you should have, a top 5 list, and then, you should find out what their deadlines, you should know all of their deadlines. And making sure that, well, pretty much just make sure that you meet those deadlines. But submitting your application in early, especially for some of the more competitive programs, there are capacity issues. You don't want to be waitlisted because you submitted one day later. There are students that are applying the summer of their junior year. So depending upon where you are academically, I would suggest, September, October, definitely. October, you should definitely have 2-3 applications already in. The summer, going into your senior year, that's a great time. Just take a weekend and write all your essays. Write, 3 or 4 essays for scholarships. You can write 2 or 3 college essays. I mean, you just sacrifice in one weekend. Just sacrifice one weekend, just knock it out. That can determine whether or not you go to the school that you want to go to, or a school you have to go to because of, the what they're offering financially. So, it's easier to do it the summer where you have less load. Once you start your senior year, so much happens. There's college fairs the first 3 months where it's nonstop. It's just so much going on. You're a senior now, so there's a lot going on, and it's so easy for you to miss scholarship deadlines as well as application deadlines. So if you knock that stuff out to the point where when senior year starts, the only thing you have to do is just press send, it'll make life that much easier.
That's a good point. I didn't realize that you could send them out even as early as September, October. But you're right. If there's no deadline to say you can't submit it this early. So if you can
Hmm.
get a jump on it and start writing the essays, then that will definitely be helpful for you. So do you have any other nuggets of wisdom that we can share with the audience?
Those are the major points. I think that as you're speaking to colleges, you want to know the outcomes. You want to know what's your graduation rate, what's your job placement. And when you say job placement, I'm not talking about students that are working at Stop and Shop or ShopRite. I'm talking about students that are actually placed in the fields of their study. What type of industry connections do you have for your programs? These industry connections reassure career placement. If they are well connected with this industry, they have connections, or they're well known to have these networks, that opens up opportunities. That reassures me that I'm going to receive a return on my investment. So, those are some of the questions that I always encourage students to ask. You want to know the outcomes. Yes, the building looks beautiful. I love your new student center. That's amazing. Food is great. Where are your graduates? How much are they making? What's the average graduate salary, in the program that I'm going into? How many graduates did you have in the program last year? How many of them were placed before graduation? How many of them were placed? These are just questions. You want to ask these questions, because if they can't answer these questions, or they're answering them and you're like, oh, that's not good, or that there are better options for me. So these are the tough questions that most colleges don't want to answer. But if you're going to pay $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 to go to the college per year, they should be able to answer these questions, because there are colleges that will have those answers.
And when you mentioned the graduation rate, I remember seeing schools that talked about like they had a 60 or 70% graduation rate in 6 years or something, and we don't want to be in college for 6 years.
I don't understand how that's the way they calculate it in higher ed. It's not just, but it's so they go by like the 6 year, and it's because some students before you can go part-time, so they take that into consideration and they average that out. If someone's going part-time, they'd probably be 6 year or 4 year, and if it's an associate degree, they're probably looking at about 4 years. So that's typical. They use that average, but even then, they shouldn't be in like the 20s or the 30s. So when you hear graduation rates, most colleges won't have a 80, 90% graduation rates unless you're talking about some of the more elite colleges. Those graduation rates are typically higher. But when you're looking at typical private, state colleges, those averages are typically around like the 40%. About 40%, and 50% is actually like pretty decent for that 6 year average. But your focus is more so on their career placement, because we know that it's going to be tough going through. College is a filter. If it was easy, everyone would have a degree. So we know that there's support that's going to be needed through that journey. We want to know the outcomes. We can provide the support. We just got to make sure the student is talking about where they're struggling, right? So that's another question you want to ask. You want to ask about their support systems. Do you have free tutoring? What happens if a student, misses a week of class, or, struggling in a class, or I fail a class? What's your retake policy? These are just questions that you don't know unless you're told.
And then another thing in terms of supports, also you can ask, like, if a student had an IEP or a 504 while they were in high school, some schools can have accommodations for you, which people may not realize, having someone be a scribe and take notes for you, things like that.
And so if you have a student that's on a IEP or a 504 plan, you need to definitely submit that with your transcript and your application. The admissions office, it's illegal for the admissions office to use that in any type of decision. So as soon as they get that, they're immediately, immediately supposed to give that to their learning specialist so they can evaluate to see what type of accommodations that they can provide for you. But if you have if you're on one of those plans and you need the support, be upfront. Ask those questions. What type of support do you have for people that, and you tell me your situation. There are no secrets when it comes to this college admission process. You want to expose and tell them everything, because you're going to spend, this is the first major decision that most high schoolers make. that has a major impact on the rest of your life. So you want to ask them every dark question possible so you can make sure that you're going to be successful, right? Because you're doing this, so you're doing this for your future, so you want to make sure they have everything there to make sure that you're not a statistic and you're not one of the ones that start and don't finish.
Okay, good point. We have another question which is asking how difficult it is to transfer from a 2-year to a 4-year college.
It's not difficult. The biggest thing is making sure that you're not just taking classes just to take classes while you're at the 2-year, while you're at the community college or the 2-year institution. So if your ultimate goal is to get your bachelor in whatever degree, the best thing for you to do would be to go and pull. This is what I tell students to do. If you know the college that you want to go to and your choice is to go to a community college because it's cheaper and you want to get all the gen ed courses, you go to the school that you want to go to and you print out the curriculum of the program that you want to get accepted into. You take that curriculum to the registrar's office and you see whether or not those classes are offered at the community college. And that freshman and that sophomore year, those are the classes that you want to make sure you're taking, as a part of your curriculum. What happens a lot is students go and they take general studies at a community college or liberal studies just to take classes, and then they transfer. They spend 2 years at a community college, but then when they transfer, they only have a year of credits that are actually transferred into the program that they want to go into because all the other classes don't fit the curriculum. So to avoid, wasting a year of financial eligibility, you want to make sure that the classes that you're taking at the 2-year college are classes that are going to be required at the 4-year college. And you can go back and forth. So you can take the curriculum from the 4-year college, take it to the 2-year college, and have them show you what your classes will look like. You can take those classes and take it back to the 4-year college and say, I'm taking these courses, which courses would be transferable if I, get a certain grade and so forth. And you can pretty much see, where you are from there.
Thank you for that question. So if we have no more questions from our audience, we want to say thank you to everyone for joining us today. Thank you so much to Mr. Conyers for coming out and spending time and giving us all his information on how to navigate your college tour and how to make the application process work for you. Thank you again to the NAAHP and to our partners Shokalela and Book and Write Accountancy for this opportunity. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great night. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Satira Case, and I am the 2021 recipient of the NAAHP's Haitian American Leadership Award Scholarship. I'd like to thank the Scholarship Committee for choosing me for this $1,000 scholarship. I am currently a student at Northeastern University, a part of their honors program, where I will be studying bioengineering. This scholarship will help me pursue my studies with a lower financial burden, and I'm eternally grateful to be chosen and have the opportunity to be the recipient of this scholarship. Once again, I just truly thank you guys for choosing me and allowing me this opportunity, and I do not intend to let any of you guys down. Thank you.